Hi, my name is Bjørn and Hegnes, and welcome to my talk about location tracking of Bluetooth devices. This project is based on my based on my student project from the first year of Network and IT Security Studies, where we had to incorporate what we learned from all other classes into one project. As you can see, this is what I'm going to touch upon today. My motivation for the project, a case with a fellow student of mine, some Mac basics, so we all know what we're talking about, hardware and resources used for the project, as well as the data collection process, the presentation of the different track devices with some interesting results and findings, and then the bigger picture, why this all matters. We started one day at class. We had a discussion about how it was possible to track somebody with them not being online, and disagreement arose with a fellow student of mine. He said, "How is that possible? My name aren't on the device. How do you know it's me?" I took this as a challenge. Then in a later setting, he told me about how he usually forgot his keys, and he used ages to find them. That's why he bought a tile, and after that it was so much easier to find them. Bingo. So what is a tile? It's a company that offers a Bluetooth tracker that works with Bluetooth, and you can connect it to whatever you want, making it easier to find misplaced things. It's basically an AirTag. And these are data points I collected from his tile. As you can see, it's 25 raw data points. It includes the GPS position when collected, as well as the MAC address, name of the device, time and date when captured, and the signal strength. And with this data, you can start visualize it onto a map. At this location, there were a lot of different tiles, but there were one in particular that was stood out. The signal strength showed it was it was in the proximity less than a meter, making it most probably my fellow student, since we sat next to each other in class. And my suspicion was true, as half of the data points was located in one spot, making it easy to find where he lived. So what is a MAC address? It stands for Media Access Control. It's a physical address. It's manufactured into every network interface card. The 3 first octets are assigned by the IEEE to a manufacturer, vendor, or organization, and the 3 last octets are for the owner to assign. This makes it a unique identifier. And as you can see, in Bluetooth City, a bunch of different Bluetooth devices screaming out unique MAC addresses communicating with the world. It's similar to if I started shouting out my personal number right now. And then Antenna Man appears. The resources to become an Antenna Man is low, as it needs basic technical knowledge, such as knowing how to use the Linux command line, as well as using how to plug in a USB adapter. And then the data visualization software that was used, I used a student license since it was free and was recommended, but there are a lot of different open source alternatives that you can use. Then a bike I already had, a smartphone already had, and the total budget was about 3,000 krona. This is the hardware I used. It's a Raspberry Pi 4. Even though it's have Bluetooth capability, I ended up buying a LM1010 from LM Technologies, since it's made for long-range communication and has an SMA connector, which I end up using because the data collection part was done during one of the COVID lockdowns, and nobody was outside, making it perfect to add an omnidirectional antenna to get the signals from inside of buildings. And then for the Wi-Fi part, I used the Alpha adapter. I would not recommend this one. Then a GlobeSat GPS. This was recommended in different tutorials and a setup that I've observed. Then lastly, a power bank that fits to the Raspberry Pi 4. For the phone, I used the Samsung Note 9. This was used during the planning phase and test phase with the use of the Wiggle Wi-Fi word driving app, as well as route planning during the data collection, and be able to SSH into the Raspberry Pi during the data collection, and as well as a backup solution. And the software used on Raspberry Pi was Kismet. It's a network and device detector. It's a sniffer and a well-known word driving tool. The data collection part was done during 12 days within Ring 3 of Oslo, as you can see. And I did set off 2 to 3 hours per day and covered about 300 kilometers. It was tiresome. To make it more structure in the data collection part, I did divide up the city in like this. I did part by part, making it not that I was in one area more than necessary. And accumulated data that was raw was 6 gigabytes. It contains all of the information there are about the captured device, even the connected client to a Wi-Fi access point, capture packages, MAC address, handshakes, and even more. But the data I was after was parsed to a CSV file, and it ended up with like 208 megabytes. In additionally, the data set captured from the phone, which was 300 megabytes. And as you can see, this data was imported to a SQL database, then connected with Tableau. And with no filters on, you can see it's M&Ms all over town. The interesting thing starts when you're starting to filtering out all of the noise. As you can see, there's smart mugs you can track people with. Even though there are not that many data points on it, I wanted to add it to show how absurd it is with all of the technology we have. And even TVs. As you can see, a lot of smart TVs are in Oslo. And this makes, what can you use this data for? As you can see, you can use it to, in those countries that have a TV license, you can actually find out if a household has a TV, or you can measure brand density. As you can see here in Oslo, Samsung 6 series was the most popular one. But the most interesting thing is how you can actually track individuals. Each of these dots are our device, and the lines drawn in between them are more and more data points on that device. As you can see, it was, from a result, it was easier to track individuals by the headphones rather than the smartphones. Since most smartphones don't have on discoverable mode longer than necessary, and they use randomized MAC addresses, not the Chinese ones. So this made it possible to track individuals in a city, like you see, even to a neighbor city. The purple one is my girlfriend, and even cross-country. And even cars are getting more smarter. As you can see, here I could track the cars with the internal Bluetooth and Wi-Fi hotspots, but as well as older cars, since they don't use FM radio anymore. People are buying DAB radios, and those have Bluetooth capability, as well as standalone GPSs with Bluetooth, as well as hands-free devices. And since, as you can see here, even the names of the devices, as like the Audi car, they're having a unique identifier in their name, making it even more easier to track them. And as you can see, this data is actually from a road trip from last summer. And you can track a car that has a GPS. This comes to the Tesla cars. As you can see, it's easy to track them with Bluetooth signal and Wi-Fi hotspots. But what can you use this data for? Well, also the Tesla key. As you can see, it's possible to correlate the Tesla key with the Tesla car. So if you know where the car are and you know where the keys are, I think you guys can put two and two together and draw an obvious conclusion about this. As well as seeing how often the density of Tesla cars in Oslo. You can see which part of Oslo the Tesla car is most observed at. It's the west part. So this device I made, it's actually used in a lot of intersection around the world in cities, and it's actually used for travel time data collection, which is then used for city planning, seeing what's rush hour, calculating average travel time, and basically counting traffic. This made me to set out my own by the freeway in Oslo. And as you can see, at the moment the data is anonymous. It shows 3 highs in the morning, morning rush, midday rush, and afternoon before it's flattening out. This is anonymous at the moment, but if they're still keeping their logs, you can see a pattern appears when they're passing every time. If you think this is all over a city, you can actually start to track a whole city. And Autopass had this capability until they shut down it in 2020. So the positive sides with this, what can you use it to? Well, you can find your lost stuff, such as your car, smart TV, and refrigerators, anything that's broadcast a MAC address. I'm not kidding. I found a lot of refrigerators. But so can everybody else, such as stores, governmental agencies, stalkers, data brokers, basically anyone that wants to track you. As an example, data brokers, they correlate dataset and sources and builds a detailed picture of you, and then sells this personal information about you. So as you can see in this example, you can start with a Bluetooth MAC address correlated with another dataset which have a name and the Bluetooth MAC address, then to a public information, which I did with my fellow colleague, student, to find out where to live, like Yellow Pages, LinkedIn, whatever, and then use the breach dataset. And with this, you can make a more combined dataset of the individual groups or, whatever. And as you can see, my results from the project was written in NRK, and where it was possible to actually track down one guy and call him and ask him if he was at these 2 places. And he had never been so creeped out before. So the bigger picture are, the issue isn't they're paranoid, but they're paranoid enough. Location data not only says where you were, but who you are, like your address, potential financial status, sexual orientation, workplace, such as what kind of career you have, religion, patterns of behavior, such as shopping tendency or mobility routines. And as you can see in the comment section, nobody cares about privacy until it impacts themselves. But there are many people in the world that need privacy just in order to survive, such as LGBTQ individuals in oppressive societies, prosecuted political and religious individuals and groups, and victims of stalking. To sum it all up, there are no anonymous location data. Thank you.
Anybody? Any questions before we got Mr. Barry Irwin and digging and delving in DNS? Yes.
One question, have you thought about using conferences to track people?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I already done it before when I was at Skatteetatens sikkerhetsdag, so so it's easy.
Anybody else? Time for one more question if anybody's got one. No? Okay, in the back, yeah.
So you're telling me I can buy an antenna on Elkjøp and then track everybody?
What did you say?
I can buy an antenna on Elkjøp and then track my teacher or something?
Yeah, that's true. I buy most of my stuff at the Challenge company, so.
Is your teacher sitting next to you? Okay. Thanks for the questions, and thank you, Bjørn Martin Hegnes.
Thanks.